There we go. So I know you guys had a lot of questions about registration, especially being your first quarter without us being there during orientation to help you. So we understand you have a lot of questions, so that's what we're doing this for. So I'll let Sara take it away.
Sure. So we're going to go over some of like the more frequently asked questions that we've been getting, especially from freshmen, and then can go over any sort of like refresh information from orientation. And then you guys will have the opportunity to ask us questions at the end too. So we can wait till the end, Jenna, or you guys can ask. I don't know if you can unmute yourselves, but just kind of let us know as we go along if you guys also have questions. Keep in mind that everything is going to be, we can talk about all this kind of in general, with the understanding that your registration might be a little different and a little personal. So it will be best to follow up with your academic advisor if you still have questions after we cover all of this in general. There might still be kind of a few things that we're missing based on your, your own placement information, your own transcripts, things like that. So just keep that in mind. But so graduating in 4 years. So I guess, okay, we'll start here. The minimum for financial aid is 12 units. So that's usually about 3 classes. I know there's been a lot of messaging that you guys are getting about 15 units a quarter to graduate on time. So mathematically, 180 units is done in 4 years with about 15 units or 16 units a quarter, because most of them are 4 units. For your winter and spring, you will need to be in your Chafee 7 2-unit workshop, which is new this year. So you'll automatically be in those 2 units. And then, so that means you'll be in about 3 classes on top of those 2 units, and you can add a 4th class in second pass if you want. In general, if you are in Psych 2 right now, then you'll be taking Psych 1 in the winter. If you have AP credit for Psych 2, which would have required a 4 or a 5 on the Psych AP test, and you're in Psych 1 right now, and you have math done or have some sort of AP credit for math, then you'll be going into Psych 11 in the winter. If you are in ARC 35 right now and you have your ARC 35 final on Saturday, then you will be enrolling in Math 4 in the winter after your ARC 35 grade is posted. If you have any interest in the medical field or going into med school and you're in ARC 35 now, then you will probably need to wait until you'll need to, sorry, the chat is popping up and distracting me. No, it's okay. You can ask your questions. I just need to focus. So if you are interested in the medical field, then you will, and you're in ARC 35 right now, you'll take Math 6A instead of Math 4. If you're just here for psychology, then what did I do? Was that me or you, Kirsten? Okay. Okay. If you're just here for psychology and you're in ARC 35 right now, then you'll be enrolling in Math 4. Okay. You haven't taken any math or English classes yet, then you need to, and you should have placements. So if you have placed into ARC 35 and haven't taken ARC 35 because it was full, then you'll definitely need ARC 35 in the winter. And same goes for English. So if you are in English 1PA or English 4 right now, then you'll take English 1A in the winter. So just as we reviewed at freshman orientation, math and English and psych are still your main priorities that you should be looking at for the winter. So if you fall into any of those categories for English, math, and psych, that will be your next step. So English 1A, you'll take English 1B in the winter. If you have credit, AP credit for English 1A, 1B, if you're in English 1B right now, you don't have to worry about English 1C. English 1C will not be a requirement or prerequisite for any of the courses that you'll need anytime soon. It's also just not one that is typically taken by freshmen. It actually used to, until like the most recent, like 2 years, it used to only be reserved for seniors. So it's just not something that needs to be on your schedule for winter. That's English 1C. Okay, so after English, math, and psych as your priority still, then you're just filling in any sort of breadth courses or lower division courses that are on here. So those are the like biological science, physical science, those additional lower division courses, and then your breadth courses, humanities, social sciences, ethnic studies. You may or may not have a placement test yet for your foreign language, so just make sure that that's still in the back of your mind, that you'll need to do that pretty soon. And it looks like the breadth course list is linked here. It's also on the CHAS Student Affairs website. It's linked in your degree audit under the breadth section. My students received it via email. And then the course catalog, awesome. You take a placement test for foreign language at placementtest.ucr.edu. At least that's where you sign up for it. Okay, yes, and then there are sample plans on the psych website. Those are just rough kind of schedules because it's hard to plan exactly. Oh, thank you, Jenna. It's hard to plan, you know, like you need to take ethnic studies 12 in the winter because what if it's full by the time you enroll? So that's why we just kind of only can do this so generally, like you can be in psych course, English, and you know, 1 or 2 breadth courses in this term, because it will just depend on your own placement. It'll depend on course availability. The BS degree, just as a reminder, is based on invitation only, and that is the prerequisites to that are a B- or higher in Psych 1, 2, 11, and 12. So after finishing Psych 12, you'll be invited to apply for the program. There would be no difference right now if you're a freshman planning to transition into a BS down the road. You'll be taking the exact same courses. So please don't worry about planning for that right now. It's not something that's in your control. The classes will be exactly the same. So you don't have to worry about that as of this point. Same for Law and Society, that you wouldn't be eligible for that until you take a Law and Society 100 course, which is only available when you're an upperclassman. So the Law and Society degree is the same as far as the psych portion is concerned, and then you'll do the Law and Society portion after. So we covered life science core stuff a little bit. That's mostly just dependent on math. So you do want to start making progress in Math 6A. If you're in Math 4 right now and you want to pursue life science core or pre-med courses, you'll need to talk to your advisor because we need to get you into a different math course. So you can start preparing for that and taking the prerequisites for chemistry. So math would be the main one there. Are there any other questions? I haven't seen anything else come up in the chat. Okay, so while you guys might be thinking of other questions as far as your enrollment is concerned, and before Kirsten transitions to registration, a couple things. Well, actually one main thing. So I'm also getting a lot of questions about the enrollment adjustment forms. So remember, you can withdraw or change the grading basis of a course, which means you can S&C a course that's not math or psychology, but any breadth course, elective, things like that. The deadline is November 30th, and you would do that at myforms.ucr.edu. If you have any questions about that. I know we only briefly cover that orientation, if at all, just because it doesn't really mean anything to you as a brand new student, but now that you're kind of getting used to the scheduling and things like that, that might be something that you're interested in or that you're hearing a little bit about. So just want to clarify what that would mean. So the deadline is November 30th. Taking Math 5, yeah. So if you're in Math 5 right now and you are just completing the psych degree, then that is the only math that you need. Same with even if you're in Math 4 right now and you're not worried about any sciences, anything like that, then Math 4, Math 5, Math 6A, Math 7A, that's perfect. Yeah, so that fulfills math for psychology. Good question. Psych 1, yeah, so again, if you have Psych 2 credit and you're in Psych 1 right now, it would depend, you should be going to Psych 11, but that would depend on if you have the math prereq as well. So if you're eligible for Psych 11, then that would be great. If you're not yet, then you can wait. You just need to prioritize math at some point. So again, Psych 11 requires Psych 1 and 2 and at least Math 4. And the prerequisites are online too when you're searching for the classes. Anything else? Okay, you can go ahead to the next one, Kirsten, and go for it.
All right, so this kind of go over some of the basic stuff of registration. So I believe a lot of you are taking this or know this already from your TFE 7 class, but just to reiterate, you know, classes at classes.ucr.edu is where you'll find these links. So to register for classes, you could go here. To browse classes, you could start doing this, I believe, you do it a week before. You could do it up to a week before you get your reg ticket. So if you have any questions of like what is being offered, what classes are being taken, you could always go back here, click on this link and kind of view all the classes. Term plan is very helpful. You could plan, you know, your term. You could put in your classes that you want to enroll in, including selecting the sections, which I'll go over in a bit. But this one's very important to prepare your registration. So going back here, you'll be able to, this is where I get a lot of questions, when do I register, right? This will kind of tell you when your registration ticket window is. So just have in mind that really the reg ticket is till December 9th. I see it's still not updated here. But if this was me, I know that I would start registering November 9th, starting at 12 p.m. You also, you could also see here if you have holds permitting your registration, you know, your academic standing as well. So this is kind of a good place to see all that. And then here's the term plan, which I already mentioned. So I suggest doing this ahead of time, obviously, before your registration ticket. I've been telling a lot of my students this, that, you know, just be sure to kind of recheck it right before registration to see in case the section you picked is full or anything like that. But the beauty of doing this ahead of time, you could kind of just click submit and you're done once you're able to register. So instead of kind of doing what we did in orientation, trying to find everything. So this is very helpful. Besides that, there's no other question, things to mention. Just some things to have in mind, general versus reserve seats. So as a psych major, you have all the psych classes reserved for you, right? Those are for you. But when you're going to another department, if they're reserved, those are not generally reserved for you. So just kind of have that in mind, especially with math or the students taking those life sciences courses, to look for those general seats, because that question comes up as well. Let me take a look at. So taking math right now. Yeah, so you would continue taking the math route. So if you're in math 6A, you would then take 6B next.
And then there's a question about discussion. So yeah, anything that has a linked section to it, lecture, lab, and discussions, then yes. And you want to make sure that you are choosing ones that are linked together. That can be kind of tricky.
Yeah, so, and most of the classes here do have a discussion section or a lab or something. I don't believe there's that many that don't have it. So just as a rule of thumb, you probably most likely have a discussion. Seeing some questions here.
Yes, all ethnic studies courses cover the breadth requirements.
Yes.
There are some that cover, so those, I've heard a lot about that too. You guys are probably covering that in your Chafee 7 about them double counting. So you want to make sure that if you want it to count for humanities, it has the H next to it. Same for social sciences. So they can only do up to 2. So it will cover your ethnic studies requirement and a social science or humanities elective. So if you, once you pass ARC 35, you're going to take Math 4 after, if you're just doing this for psych and you don't care about med programs or anything like that. Final date to register. So you can register up until the start of classes. So technically you can add classes and drop classes up through week 2, but that's not a great idea to keep in mind as a deadline, because that means that you would have missed 2 weeks of instruction. So hopefully they can get back to you as soon as possible about your financial situation. You can enroll as soon as possible. Yes, I wouldn't want you to wait. You cannot take Math 4 and Psych 11 at the same time. No, good question. So Math 4, Math 5, whatever it is, 6A has to come before Psych 11. So if you're in ARC 35 now with Psych 1, then that means that you're not eligible for Psych 11 yet. You'll need to do Math 4, a couple breath courses, and then take and then take Psych 11 in the spring. 14 units planned out, and having trouble finding classes. Yeah, so 14 units is probably going to be all you can enroll in right now. Oh, 16 units. Right now I have 14 units planned out and having trouble finding classes that don't exceed.
To exceed 17, I'm guessing is what they're asking.
Sure.
So yeah, that one, you might have to wait till second pass which is December 9th at 9 a.m. in order to add that last class. And that might be a lot of your guys' boat, since the Chafee 7's a 2 unit and it kind of shifts everything. So many of you might be in that same boat.
Yes, Math 4 covers a graduation requirement as part of your lower division requirements that you need. So no psych classes for winter. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know this is a chat, but I don't remember what your other question was before that. I'm sorry. So you can always follow up with me. It looks like you'd be my student if you want some clarification on no psych classes.
Yeah, same for how many breath courses I should take. It really just depends. You could always email me privately and see where you're at, and I could kind of give you that idea, because I think that's also my student asking that question. What's the maximum?
But 14 units is fine. Yeah, absolutely. So again, 12 units is a financial aid minimum. 14 units is fine. If you want to add a 4th class to take 18 units, you would have to wait until second pass, but it's not required.
What classes we can take? So the max you can enroll in right now in terms of units is 17 during this first pass of registration, which is what we call like your first attempt at registration, right? So 17 units. So for some students, that might mean 4 classes. For some, it might mean 3 and 2 unit class. It just depends on the units. Because there's some classes that are 5 units, some are 4, some are 2, like Chafee. So think about the units. So max.
I'm trying to think of anything else that we've been asked lately.
For me, I'm going through the questions in the sign-in sheet that we got, so I'll find some that are more general and then send it over.
Cool.
Sounds good.
One person's already asked me about upper dibs.
Okay.
So they said, is there a way we can tell in advance when certain upper division psych courses are available? Will we have to wait until the course list comes out?
So we do have published the tentative plan for psychology upper divs. It's on the psychology website. You could also, what I would tell, you could always go back in the history of what was offered. However, that's not a for sure thing. You could kind of just give yourself an idea. But there is a list on the psychology website. Let's see if I.
And yeah, so that gets published for the upcoming year. The best way, yeah, I mean, you would just have to wait until the schedule comes out. Honestly, we don't know any earlier than you guys do because we are notified of the final schedule the same day it goes online. So we don't have any secret information, but we just follow the tentative plan that we create in the spring for the following year. Keep in mind that you do mostly need the prerequisites for all of the, well, you do need the prerequisites. You don't have to be an upper division standing, but don't get too excited about taking Psych 110 just because you finished Psych 1. Psych 110 is a very difficult class. So please don't start taking that in your freshman year, or, maybe even sophomore year, just because you have the prereq done. So it's okay, take your time. I'm not sure what a schedule would look like without breath courses in the winter, to be honest. So I'm not really sure. If you want to clarify that question, that would be great. But you'll probably be in at least one breath course. I mean, and keep in mind, breath is all encompassing of English, kind of math. That's kind of one of the overlapping breath and major courses. And those are all those ethnic studies ones, social sciences. So it'd be rare that you wouldn't be in a breath course, I guess. If you're in Psych 1 and haven't taken a math course, you will not be in a psych class for winter. Okay, so I guess that's what the other question was. So if you're in Psych 1 now, but you don't have the math prereq for Psych 11, then you will not be in Psych 11 until the spring. So that means you would be in math in the winter, English if you still need it, and any of those breath courses. So that would be a situation, thank you for clarifying, when you wouldn't be in a psych course in the winter. Oh, and sorry, Kirsten, before I forget, a lot of students get confused by the Psych 49 courses and Psych 13, things like that. So since you're a psych student, you can't use Psych 49 or Psych 13, those lower division courses, for your breath, even though they're listed on that breath course list. Remember, that gets sent to everybody in Chaz. So that, and it's a lower division, so it doesn't help you in your upper division. So Psych 49 is only giving you elective units, which is fine, but remember, you also need elective units outside of the major. So it's not even fulfilling that. It's kind of doing nothing for you, which is fine if you're like a graduating senior and you just absolutely need units. Then that's when I recommend Psych 49, but not to my freshmen. So please be careful about those Psych 49, Psych 13 courses. They don't really fulfill a requirement for you right now. So just keep that in mind. I'm sorry, Kirsten.
Oh no, that was how that I was going to cover that. So you're good. Now I was just going to say there's nothing wrong with needing to, if you're in that situation where you don't have psych classes in the winter, that's totally fine. You could just continue taking it in spring and then going on from there.
Yeah. There'll be a couple quarters that you're not in psych courses, to be honest. Between here and 4 years, I mean, it's just bound to happen. There's just other requirements that you need. So you're a psych major, but part of that is fulfilling many other requirements. So that, is not typical, but it'll happen every now and then.
I think one of you touched on like taking the language classes earlier, but for the BA, someone asked like, would they need to take a language class? And I guess another question to follow up on that would be like, when would you recommend starting on taking languages?
At any time. So yes, you need a language for a BA and a BS. And a couple of reminders. So if you're fluent in a language, you can test out of it completely. So Spanish is the most common. So if you take the Spanish placement test and you test into Spanish 5, then that's above the 4th quarter level. So you don't need to take a foreign language at UCR. Same if you test like within it. If you test into Spanish 3, then you just need to take 3 and 4. I would recommend taking the placement test sooner rather than later, I guess, now that you're kind of, a quarter in and acclimated, then, now it's a little bit easier to think about when you're first incoming and, we're at orientation. It's not something I want you to worry about right then, but now that it's on your radar, it would be good to have on your record. Yeah, so any other?
Yeah, so even though you took a language with the AP exam, that's a common question. Even if you got a 5, I see the question. You still have to. You'll only get elective units for that. It won't count for a language. So you still have to take the placement exam for that language. So Sarah already mentioned it. Placement.ucr.edu. Go on that website. There's the whole information on placement, and they'll show you if you haven't taken a language, any past experience, you could fill out a survey to just join from the first. Say you've never have any experience in Korean, you could take that survey. It'll have also the information on how to take the placement exam. I don't know how much it costs.
Yeah,
$30. Someone said it.
So thank you for knowing that. I
didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. They take a writing across curriculum does that. That's right. Yeah, so it's the writing across curriculum. So it's kind of like the ethnic studies. There's these classes that could count for English 1C credit. So yes, so for example, History 20W would count for both world history and English 1C.
And yes, you can take a placement test for 2 languages. You would need to then pay for both, I guess. So, but you need to finish the 4th quarter proficiency of 1 language. So you can't do like 2 quarters of Spanish and 2 quarters of French. It's a 4th quarter level of 1 language. But you can take multiple tests if you want. I've had students do that in the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to touch on this again, just in case, but like there were some questions about being on the med track and then taking the courses needed. Would it be recommended to stay with the psych major or switch to like a CNAS major or something?
Okay, so here's I don't take psychology personally. If you want to switch to CNAS, that's totally fine. There's a misconception though that being in CNAS means that you get priority to these courses or that it's going to help you in med school in any way. That's just not true. So you can be a psychology major and fulfill the med school prereqs. I have a lot of students that are doing that. You don't have to worry too much about it right now, again, unless you're working on a math situation. So the first course of med school prereqs is Math 6A or ARC 35, depending on where you are. Math 6A, 6B, Chem 1A, and those are all prereqs into bio. So math is going to be the first thing that we have you enroll in if you are planning on pre-med courses. You can absolutely do that as a psych student. Keep in mind that if you do plan on changing your major into CNAS or BCOE or anything, you have to be eligible by the end of your first year. So that's something that you would want to be working with Carol May in the CHAS undeclared office about to transition. She works with transitioning students in between colleges, but you would have to be eligible by the end of this year. There was another question.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So foreign language is required in order to graduate. Yes, that's required of all CHAS students. Was there anything else about pre-med stuff, Jenna, or did that cover it?
I think that covered it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Goofy question.
So Chiefy 7, it'll be the same one. Just note that I've been getting this question too. Will I just be automatically enrolled in it? No. You have to enroll in it. I believe it's under the block, so it's one of the first things you enroll in. But it's at least not connected to anything like it was connected to Psych 1 or Psych 2.
Was the requirement for the Chippy class changed this year, like to be like a full year? Because I know some students have been asking me like, why do we need to take it for the full year?
Yeah, this is the first year, which is a surprise to us too, actually.
Yes.
So yes, so JP7 is now required for fall, winter, and spring of this incoming class. So it's 2 units, just like Kirsten was saying. It'll be added to right when you go on to register. You'll choose from the workshop that you want. So make sure again to choose carefully and then hit submit, and then you'll go in and search for your other classes or upload your term plan there.
Yes, you could so someone asked if they could transfer the foreign language from a community college. Yes, you can. I always say just check with your advisor to make sure it's a transferable class, but you could use assist.org. Also note that you might have to do the placement exam at that community college. But yes, that is a possibility.
So one quick, like really minute detail about that though. If you okay, I'm just going to use Spanish because it's the most common. If you took Spanish in high school and you end up taking Spanish at a community college, the first level or first quarter will not transfer in to UCR unless you've taken a placement test at UCR that says you've tested into level 1. So I'm going to repeat that because it's super complicated. So if you've taken Spanish in high school, any foreign language, but again, Spanish as an example in high school, you need to have a placement test on your record at UCR to transfer in level 1 from a community college. The rest of the levels will transfer in, but level 1, if you've taken it at UCR or if taken it in high school without a placement test at UCR, it does not transfer in. Keep in mind, any courses taken from a community college, not only foreign language, anything, does not transfer in GPA either. It will only give you units. You will not be able to search JP7 to enroll in it. It will only show up as your block. That will be just automatic.
From the advisor side, I don't know if you've heard of any specific or like fun breadth requirements to take, but someone did ask like, what are some great gen ed classes to take?
I'll let Sara say.
Yeah. There's a ton of, it just depends, obviously, on what your interest is and what you find fun. I'm not going to give you any ideas because it depends on what's open, to be honest. So, same as we struggled with the orientation, I know it's not great, but as a first year freshman, your registration is going to be pretty late. So anything that you can find that you're even remotely interested in that's open sounds fun and it's great and is going to fulfill breadth courses. So I would start there, and please don't be picky. Again, as your registration continues and as you accrue more units, then you're going to be able to choose classes and be a little bit more selective for this immediate quarter, probably in the spring as well. It's not going to be great. So anything that's open will be awesome.
Kirsten, did you have any input on that, or can I give my student input?
No, it's really just that, like, I have a couple students that really did not like, I remember the classes they chose, but then ended up telling me that they liked them. You never know what you like sometimes, right? Sometimes a class seems very interesting and then ends up being like the worst class. So just have that in mind too. Be very open. If you've never taken a certain class, how do you know if you like it or not? So just have that in mind too when registering for classes. Any other questions? Yeah.
For me personally, I enjoy creative writing, and like the creative writing classes that I've taken so far are pretty fun and relatively easy in my perspective, but I know a lot of people like either really like the material that they're learning or they just absolutely hate writing. There may be a lot of writing depending on the class that you're taking. So it's another class to keep in mind, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear a lot of like the geo classes, like learning about oceanography or earthquakes could be really interesting, but I hear a lot of those classes are kind of hard somehow for some reason. Not that I'm doubting the students by any means. It just seems like it would be something that, could be easy and, or at least interesting, and somehow it's not. So I get that feedback a lot too with those geo courses.
Yeah, I know for at least additional science requirements, the computer science, I think like 6 or 8 courses are relatively easy too, and
Yeah.
I recommend taking them.
Yeah. So CS8 is a popular one, and that one's pretty simple. But that again, so if I recommend that, but then it's full by the time you enroll in a couple weeks, and everybody's gonna be mad at me, and I don't need any of those angry emails right now. So in the future, CS8 will probably be a good one. Chem 1A for pre-med, along with math courses. Go ahead, Kirsten.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it really depends where you're at with math. But yeah, it is you could potentially start your chem series, Chem 1A, for either pre-med or neuro students this year. You could ask me specifically, send me an email to see where you're at if we want to calculate that in your plan for winter or spring. Super high.
Yeah, so the prereq to Chem 1A is just math 6A.
6A or placement into 6A, I think.
Yeah, these sciences always. But so meaning that you can take Chem 1A and math 6B at the same time, but keep in mind that you have to progress in psychology first. So do you really want to take Psych 11, Chem 1A, and Math 6B in your second quarter? Probably not. I mean, I definitely wouldn't, I guess I would say that.
Yeah, have that in mind too. Psych 11 and 12, they're not the easiest courses. Maybe for some of you it will be. So yeah, definitely have in mind what Sara just said.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know if anyone had any other specific registration or like course questions, but I can address a couple other questions in the sign-in sheet. People did talk about getting research experience. Let's see, volunteering experience, getting an internship, and then like finding their path in psychology. From the student perspective, and as a board member of Psychi, the Psychology Honor Society, we're a resource for all of you, and you're welcome to come to us to learn about the various fields of psych that we have. And tomorrow, actually, we're having our lab fair. If you haven't already seen it promoted by the psych advising email or by Psychi in general, I believe there's about 14 or 15 different research labs from the psych department, as well as a couple from the graduate student of education college as well. They will be talking about their individual research labs, as well as like maybe potential opportunities for getting into research. So stay tuned for that. I'll drop in our Instagram and our website as well. If you have any questions about any of that, feel free to reach out to me as well.
Yeah, the lab fair tomorrow is going to be excellent. I recommended it to like almost every student that I saw today, because enrolling in labs right now as a research assistant is something that is really difficult, because a lot of the labs did not know how to kind of transition into an online environment. So it's hard for students right now to apply. So it's great that the labs are going to be there and tell students exactly how to do that. And, you can find out exactly who's recruiting. So just a note about that too, you as lower division students can enroll into lab units. It would be Psych 96. So you would actually earn units for being in a research lab. When you get into upper division standing as a junior, then you can enroll in Psych 197 as a research assistant, and you can earn units and GPA credit for it. So we have, and now it'll actually fulfill one of your upper division psych electives. So we have a lot of students that are, that are enrolled in lab and helping in a lab, and then that is also fulfilling a lot of their graduation requirements.
Just another thing about Saikai. Next Monday from 5 to 6 p.m. is our last general meeting, and I believe we'll be having a couple grad students from like clinical or applied areas of psych to talk about their experience. So if you're interested in that, definitely come to our meeting and get to know everyone there. And we'll be having a social after, so you're very welcome to attend as freshmen and as prospective members of Saikai.
That's so cool. Yeah, Psych is doing great things this year. Psych Advising is also on Instagram. I'm not going to pull it up and plug it, but hopefully you guys are following us too. Usually if we were in person at orientation, I would make everybody get their phones out and follow us in person. So I didn't want it to be too awkward when we're online, but UCR Psych Advising is also on Instagram too. So
I can just plug it in the chat, might as well. And there we have it. So that's a Psych Advising Instagram.
Wow, thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Is there anything else on there, Jenna, that stands out?
Not that I see. I think I covered everything in general.
I don't know how long this placement exam is. Should I sign up for it now during the fall? Yes, so your placement stays good for a year. So if you take it at any time, so if you take it right now, like before fall ends, you can possibly enroll in it in the winter, depending on seat availability. You can definitely enroll in it in the spring up through kind of next winter registration, I guess.
I don't know about the Spanish one specifically, but I think the placement exams in general are about 2 hours.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either.
I would assume like from somewhere between 1 to 2 hours, because I think for my Chinese one, it was about 2 hours, but I finished it earlier.
Okay, so one of them saying about an hour. That sounds about right. 2 hours is a lot for language.
I'm like 1 to 2 hours. I forget. It might be different depending on the language too. I'm not
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, about an hour for Spanish, someone said.
Yeah. Thank you.
Also, think about something, I mentioned this too, because languages, you kind of need that repetition, right? So if you're going to start a language, kind of follow through it. Like, don't try to like do Spanish 1 this year and then maybe do Spanish 2 next year. If you're not fluent or anything, obviously you're not fluent if you get placed there, but so have that in mind. You want to kind of continue it on because you need that practice with languages. So just kind of have that in mind. Yes, I believe that's correct, right? The registration block and then the rest they search. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. I believe so.
Yep, that'll be the first thing you enroll in, and then you'll go into searching for other classes.
And yes, if you're placed at the lowest foreign language, yes, you would take the 4 courses. So 4, yeah.
Yeah, up to the 4th level.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? These are good questions, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if any freshmen haven't gone to see their advisors yet, but obviously I would highly recommend it. Kirsten and Sara, what would you say, how do I word this properly? What do you feel like you can help out with a lot besides like the academic side in terms of like, course registration and like just things like that? So like what other things besides what you would typically think you help out at?
Ooh, that's a good question, Jenna. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I usually introduce myself like this at orientation, but especially in this online environment, I just like to be able to be the student's like first point of contact and be kind of a face of UCR when maybe they don't have that anywhere else. I mean, your faculty are great. You're going to connect with them, eventually, and that will be a really great resource. The board members of Psych-Chi, once you're able to get involved with Psych-Chi more. But, for just any sort of general questions, even if I can't solve it for you, I can usually point you in the right direction. So that just kind of, I think, is helpful in building a relationship. And then also, on the other side of the spectrum, when you guys are a couple of years along and you're thinking about grad schools, then I'm happy to talk about grad school, grad planning, stuff like that is always fun. Kirsten and I both went to grad school, so then it's fun to be able to share that experience with our students. And, maybe you'd want to go into a counseling program like I did, and then I can tell you all about it and why I loved it. Kirsten, what do you think?
Yeah, no, ditto what Sarah said. A lot of times I hear students say, oh, I talked to my friend and they told me this. And so always come to us first regarding any questions about anything you have. Even if you don't know if it relates to us, we could at least pinpoint you where to go. And then the same, we could help with, down the line, what you're, if you have any goals, like grad school. I love talking to students about grad school because I could get really into deep. Sometimes half an hour is not enough for grad school. Also, like resources, I know with some I've done like study tips or how to plan out your, especially during this time, it's very hard to stay motivated. And so we could talk about those skills as well if you're finding that you're having that academic difficulty. Also, like more about other resources on campus that you might not think about that are there. I've already had some students ask, I mean, it's kind of weird right now, but study abroad. So we could talk to you about those things as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can help with. If we can't help you with that, we'll try to find someone that could help you. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I was just responding in the chat too. So once a quarter is more than enough. If you're just confused, kind of like we're doing now, about what to enroll into the next quarter, that's usually a good time. Keep in mind that's the most popular time. So this is when we're hearing from all of our students. And an appointment is not necessarily needed once a quarter. I would recommend either just an email check-in or coming by our walk-in hours. So our caseloads have increased drastically. So a lot of us have appointments booked for the rest of the quarter. So appointments go really fast, but the good news is, as new students, you don't really need an appointment if you want to do a degree check, then that wouldn't need to be done within like 2 years or something. You're still so brand new that, like we said, everything that you're taking is going towards some graduation requirement. Or if you have something a little bit more in-depth or personal going on that you need to plan for, taking a year off or having some, sort of more details that you want to cover, then we can do that during an appointment. But in general, a walk-in is fine, email is fine. Our turnaround time for emails is usually about 3 days. Right now it's getting closer to 4 personally, because everybody wants to check in, which is great, but just please understand that, you only have 1 or 3 of us, but we have 600 of you. So we're trying.
Yes, ditto, exactly what Sarah said. Yeah, we'll get to you. It just might not be as fast as usual, but we're trying as much as we can. Which also, I'm getting a lot of like questions of, and this is just a general rule, don't leave some stuff for the last minute, especially when contacting us too. I have a couple students that contacted me like a half hour before registration. So just have that in mind too, to like one to email us, I understand everyone's busy, so but just have that kind of also in mind to not wait too last minute.
Right, what do we think? Any last questions?
If there's not any more questions, we can just end it here, and then I'll stop the recording and send it out to everyone at the end.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you. It was very great questions. So
Yeah.
best of luck with your finals.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Kirsten and Sarah.
Of course.
Of course.
Bye, everyone. It's good to see you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.